Hi, I'm Beth, and this is my hypnobirthing story. I am a mum of under two, crazy. So my little girl, Hattie, is almost 2 in October, and I've 9 weeks postpartum with my little boy, Remy. And I did hypnobirthing because it is something that families have always done, and I wanted to try and have the most positive and knowledgeable experience with both my babies, which I did actually end up having, and I would recommend to anybody. I got married really young. Me and my husband, actually, it was just after I turned 21 that we actually got married. And just before then, we decided that we wanted kids. We'd just bought our first house, we were getting married, and it just felt right. So we started trying. I can't remember what year I got married now. I think it was 2021. 3 years ago, 2021. So we started trying in 2021. We fell pregnant really quick after I came off contraception. I've been on it since I was 15. And I actually was pregnant on my wedding day, and I didn't realise. I found out, but we actually later came back with this honeymoon and had an early scan, and it ended up with a miscarriage. It wasn't something that I even ever expected or anyone had even discussed or spoke about. I just didn't even think it would ever happen. And obviously it did. But then after that, we started trying again. I fell pregnant with Hattie, my first, after 3 months of trying. And then that's obviously when the hypnobirthing came in. The reason that I did hypnobirthing is because it is something that my sister actually did when she fell pregnant with my nephew, Archie, and my auntie was talking to her, and she said, look, I'm going to pay for you to do a few little private classes for hypnobirthing because I think it'll be really beneficial to you. So obviously then when I fell pregnant, it was just inevitable that this clearly works, because it's worked, and I really wanted to try it. And then I did my own little research, and I found an online hypnobirthing class because in-person hypnobirthing can be really expensive. You're talking £400 for a couple of sessions in person. So this online course is actually amazing. I recommend it to everybody and anybody because there's loads of little MP3s that you listen to, and it's a bit like a podcast, to be honest. And I went through that slowly and steadily throughout the whole pregnancy with Hattie. Roped my husband into the important parts, obviously birthing partner type things. And I really, really enjoyed it. It gave me something to do on a night because I liked bonding with Hattie. So I'd go to bed on a night, I'd listen to one of the little podcast type things for the hypnobirthing, and a lot of it focusing on your breathing. So I'd focus on my breathing and think about Hattie, and it was quite a nice bonding thing as well for me and her. So yeah, that's how I basically got into it really. Basically, hypnobirthing it's your mentality towards your birth and labour really. And I think a lot of women think that hypnobirthing is just to do with vaginal births, but actually, in fact, you can use it for C-sections and stuff. And it's really about your controlled breathing and your mindset when you're in birth. For me, it wasn't just about that. I think it was just educating yourself on what's happening with you and your body, so that when you're in this position, you don't feel so vulnerable. So, every stage and everything, the hypnobirthing, just educating me on everything. The hypnobirthing techniques is basically as you breathe in. So when you're having your contractions, you breathe through these contractions because you need to work with your body rather than fighting against it. The more that you learn about hypnobirthing, the more it makes sense. So obviously when you're having a contraction, your body uses and that uses its oxygen obviously to contract. That's what it uses. So when you tense all your body up, your oxygen and your energy is going to all the other different places in your body, and it's not focusing on your uterus. So then it's really difficult for your uterus to contract because its energy is everywhere else on your body. So if you really focus on your breathing, you relax everywhere else, all that oxygen and all that energy can go just towards your uterus muscle. So then really you're supposed to progress in your labour a lot better. What happened is I had my baby shower at 36 weeks, which I would not recommend to anybody. Don't wait that long. Because it was the morning of my baby shower, and I was just me and my husband, it were actually his wedding anniversary. We'd gone back to his like hotel where we'd got married. And in the morning, I was just laid there and I went to the toilet. Obviously, I had a wee, came back, laid in bed, and I was like, I've either like weed myself again or like my waters have just gone. So I had my baby shower. I still wore high heels and everything. And then on the way home, I rang obviously triage and said, I think some of my waters have gone. I'm obviously 36 weeks. And they said, just obviously monitor it, put a pad in. If any more comes out, then obviously let us know. And then more water came out. But the main concern actually was the fact that I had really high blood pressure when I went in. They came back in and said, right, we're going to have to give you obviously some blood pressure medication to bring that down. And for a while, they didn't even test my waters because obviously that's what they were worried about, like preeclampsia and stuff. And then they kept me in overnight just to see if I went into labour within like 24 hours. And then obviously I'm not. So the day after, a consultant came and spoke to me and basically said, we'll have to put you on antibiotics because obviously you've had like a rupture of your membranes just because now there's obviously like a risk of infection. And then you can go home and we'll book you in next bang on a week time when I have 37 weeks for an induction, obviously because there's that risk of infection there, which I was absolutely gutted about because I really, really did not want to be induced. Because obviously, again, with like the hypnobirthing side of things, you learn about like lots of different pain relief, and obviously you always want to do it in the most natural way possible, like with no real pain relief at all. Whereas obviously with an induction, it's like synthetic hormones. It's a lot more intense. It's 0 to 100. The rates of obviously needing like assistance or an epidural or C-sections is obviously a lot higher with induction. So yeah, I worked pretty good, to be honest. I tried everything within that week to induce labour naturally with Hattie, but obviously she just didn't want to. It is a good thing because in my head I wanted to get to 37 weeks for her to be like classed as full term, but then also I didn't want to be induced. It was difficult, but yeah, I got induced at bang on. It was a Sunday, 37 weeks. We have something called a pessary, and that's basically what I needed. Sometimes you can start off with the balloon, but because my waters had already gone back, you don't need that. So I had the pessary and I just started contracting straight away, basically. So with the pessary, the contraction started what I would probably assume is natural labour anyway at home, just like mild period pains. But they did start literally as soon as that pessary, and you've got to lay in your bed for 30 minutes before like you can get up. So obviously you can fall out or anything like that. And they obviously put one on a monitor and I could see that I was contracting on this monitor already. And I was like, oh, that's great. Please be a good sign that I'll get me like the hormone drip or anything like that. So obviously that had started like the contractions and stuff. So they were just like mild period pains, and then it got to like more intense period pains. So this is when like I really recommend like hypnobirthing to anybody, because then in my mind I was like, right, a woman who would sometimes be induced and probably lay on a bed, just not do anything, just wait for like something to like happen, might be like really scared, really anxious. Obviously it's inevitable. I was still a little bit scared and anxious, but I was like excited. Obviously you're going to meet your baby. So like with hypnobirthing, I was like, right, I know what I need to do now to like help this like come along. So I thought, I really don't like the hormone drip. I really don't like the epidural. I've had this pessary. I'm going to wait with my body and see if I can do it myself. So I asked if I could like leave the ward to go for a walk. I thought, right, let's speed things up. So they said, yeah, of course. So I went for a walk. They started to like amp up a little bit more. So then when we got back like onto our ward, on the ward you are with loads of the women in bays, you just have to pull the curtain across, which is a lot more annoying. So I tried to bring like a lot of home from home comforts, like I was doing like a Sudoku to pass time. But when I was doing my Sudoku, I was like sat on my birthing ball and like bouncing on my birthing ball. I went like laid on my back. I always tried to like upright. And then when they started getting a little bit more intense, I put my headphones in and I just listened to some like relaxing music, put like an eye mask on, like basically try to like fall asleep and try and, I don't know, release oxytocin naturally, like myself. So like that was like the method that I did. So I just closed my eyes, like zoned out, and then that was literally kind of me on my own then. Like I did monitor, they have to monitor you like every so often. Anyway, so then they put me on the monitor with Hattie, and because I had a contraction when like it was on and they were trying to put on, it like knocked off a little bit, so I had to be like continuously monitored for quite a while, which was the only irritating thing with the induction, is that you can't move through your contractions because obviously you're constantly monitored. Now I find like moving and swaying like really helps me, but obviously he's slightly more restricted. But they did actually allow me to have the monitor on. You can sometimes when you sat on your ball, so it's just like asking and like the question of like, can you do it like in this position, or can I be on my side, or you just have to be like laid there flat. Like there is options, especially like with like the technology these days, they've got little hand monitors and stuff. And so that, yeah, with me, just try to stay as relaxed as possible, listen to my relaxing music. They start to get really close together, like really quickly and really intense. So obviously I'm like really breathing through them. I'm trying not to get worked up. Obviously I'm using my hypnobirthing techniques. I'm like bringing all that oxygen in, trying to release loads of oxytocin, like obviously with my eye mask to make it dark. I'm trying to zone out the rest of the hospital because sometimes that can be like a distraction. And then I had a woman, my midwife actually, who delivered Hattie, like came into me and says, right, we've been monitoring you for a while, we can see that your contractions are really close together, we're going to take you up to labour wards now and like obviously like see where we're at, because obviously hopefully like it'll not be too long until you're having your baby. So they took me off the monitor, and then they're like, do you want to like be wheeled down? I was like, no, I am walking up to labour ward. So we walked up to labour ward, and I'd stop every so often for a contraction. I'd like sway, move my body, and that when I wasn't on the monitor, and that release of being able to move was just, that just felt absolutely amazing. That was the only thing I would say with induction. It is a lot harder because obviously you haven't got the freedom to move your body, which I did actually found really, really helpful, like swaying with your contractions. But then got hooked to obviously labour ward, and that's when I rang my mum, because you are childbirthing partners. So I rang my mum and said, obviously I'm going up to labour ward now. So my mum came and met us at the hospital, and then my midwife actually just really briefly, she was really nice, spoke about like my pain relief options. Now with induction, the pain is a lot more intense than obviously like going into like labour naturally. They say like pain's a lot more intense. So obviously she spoke about epidural and like a semi like birth plan, and I said I really don't want an epidural, so I'd like you to not mention that to me. But there's also obviously gas and air, which I've not had up until this point. It was like 12 o'clock. And then there's also something called diamorph or pethidine, which is like an injection in your leg. And obviously it's just like diamorphine really. And obviously that can like take the pain away, which I've not really heard of that or researched that with Hattie that much. So like for now, I'm just good with gas and air. So I went into the labour ward. Now at our hospital trust, they're really quite good with hypnobirthing at the minute. They're really trying the best to like get on board with it. So I put obviously my tracks on, and again I was just, my mum was massaging my legs, Lewis was massaging my arms and my feet, just to try and obviously relax you as much as possible. But in between the contractions, I was like completely fine. And then it being, I'm not sure how long, but I remember getting really intense. I thought I was really tired at this point. I think I've been in labour for well over 12 hours. And I think I turned and said to my midwife, I'd like to have diamorphs. So she said, yeah, that's completely fine. So it was just an injection in your leg. I just want just a bit of diamorph. I need to take the edge off. I really don't want an epidural just because I think it's just going to hinder things even more. I want to be able to move as much as I can. And then I'm not too sure what time, but my midwife said, I'm just going to check to see how dilated you are and if there's any like water still left there. So she checked to see how dilated you are. She said, you still got like a little bit of waters. So she popped them, and then she said she can feel that my baby had loads of hair. And then I was like even more excited. And then after she popped my waters, it wasn't too long But I remember they got a lot more intense, and you just got that feeling, that pressure of literally like, and that's how like, right, and feel like I need the toilet. So that means that obviously I want to push. So I remember I went on all fours because Hattie had moved that far down the birth canal. I was being monitored across my belly continuously, and that means she can't really move. But they stuck a monitor to Hattie's head. So obviously she went up inside me and then stuck it to her head, and then with the monitor on the head you can move, which obviously because then it's more control to all that, was just obviously an amazing relief again. So as soon as she stuck it on her head, I said, can I go on all fours? Because obviously being on all fours can help. That's like a little thing you learn, like hypnobirthing and stuff. Obviously can help like with gravity. So I went on all fours and I did like a few of my had a few contractions, and then I just started pushing with Hattie. The thing is, with my midwife, she was like, you're going to have to like pull because I was relaxing so much, I was like sinking myself down into bed. So if you sink any more down, if you push, you're going to squish your baby's head. So like she had to keep reminding me to like really lean over the bed. So I like leant over the top of the bed. So I remember I was like pushing, and I remember my contractions, and I leant over the bed, and my midwife was like, are you contracting yet? And I was like, no, I'm not feeling anything. And her head was like literally nearly out and were there. But because I had dime off, I did feel it, and it was painful. It didn't really take your pain away. It makes you feel a bit woozy. But I says, no, I'm just chilled. So honestly, it felt like a good 5 minutes before I had another contraction and I went to push her out. And apparently that is your body's way of like building up all this energy so you can obviously get them out. And I had that with Hattie. And then obviously I pushed again, and then she were out. But I remember her head being partially out, and my midwife, I've got a photo actually of her head out before I have another contraction. And my midwife said, do you want to touch your head? So obviously I went and I touched the top of her head, and I could feel all her hair, which also obviously was amazing. And then I remember the midwife saying to my husband, do you want to take a photo? So obviously he took a photo of Hattie like out, which I absolutely love. I show that on all my friends and stuff, like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then I obviously turned around and and I held her there. The only thing is she was a bit cold and she did need the suctioning. Then that's when obviously I had like the golden hour and like feeding, but obviously I like couldn't put the cord and stuff that time. So yeah. So it just felt surreal. I can't, like, even when I was younger, I always just, it's so maternal. I couldn't wait until the moment I could have babies. So like, I remember even when I was pregnant, I thought, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually going to give birth. Like, I'm going to have a baby. And I remember give it like in labour and be like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, this is all I've ever wanted and this is happening. Like, it just feels surreal. But then when I held her, I just kept saying to my mum and Louis, like, oh my gosh, that's my baby. Obviously, like hypnobirthing wise, I would always say, don't just think that it's like this breathing techniques and you can like, everybody can just breathe the baby out. Because for me, I did push. I did obviously utilise some pain relief methods, like just, you can do all that with hypnobirthing. I just look into, if you don't just necessarily want to do hypnobirthing, I just look into like everything that's happening with your body. I recommend just like looking at every single pain relief, looking into C-sections, even though you're thinking in your head it's never going to happen. Just research recovery for C-sections as well, just in case, because you never know. And then you don't want to be like crazy, had this emergency C-section. Look into inductions, different induction methods, because again, that was something that I didn't want, but I was clued up on like the different methods and I knew what was happening. You just want to know what's happening with you and your body so you can make the right and informed choices. Just lots of different things. So you're knowledgeable on what's happening with you and your body. I would just really, really recommend looking into that. I'd recommend antenatal classes, everything you can, just to be clued up, especially like as a first-time mum and when you're going into birth, because it's scary and daunting as it is. And if you don't know what's happening with you and your body, you're going to panic even more, because you're just going in blindsided. Whereas if you've got a little bit of an idea what's happening, you can like, no, I don't need to do that because, or yeah, do that because I know that it's going to help, or things like that.